the Managing Director, Absa Bank, the people who have made sure we are here, the people with the money is coming also in another way. Mr. David Wandera, the podium is yours, sir.
Thank you. Good morning. The Permanent Secretary, Secretary to the Treasury, Mr. Ramadan Gobi, our partners, NTV Uganda, distinguished speakers and panelists, all protocol observed. I'd like to welcome you all here today morning. To our esteemed clients, business associates, members of the Absa board, the country management committee here present, you're all welcome. Thank you for joining us today at the 2025 Absa National Post-Budget Dialogue. This forum is now a defining feature of our annual calendar at Absa, a space for the private sector, policy leaders, and the business community to interrogate the national budget, unpack its implications, and explore the opportunities ahead. It's always a pleasure to host such a diverse and engaged audience. Let me begin by commending the Ministry of Finance, Planning, and Economic Development, and in particular, the Permanent Secretary and Secretary of the Treasury for delivering the 2025-2026 national budget. At 72.4 trillion, the budget continues to chart an ambitious path for the country, targeting tenfold expansion over the next 15 years and reaffirming investment in these key themes: boosting household incomes and micro-enterprise, industrialization and private sector development, commercialization of agriculture, transport and infrastructure development, tourism, human capital development, energy, oil and gas development, and governance and security. While these themes remain consistent, the surrounding context is evolving and evolving rapidly. Across sub-Saharan Africa, the World Bank projects growth of about 3.5% in 2025 and 4.3% by 2027. This rebound is fueled by stabilizing currencies, softening inflation, and stronger domestic demand. For Uganda, we are slightly better than that. Growth climbed to 6.1% for the last financial year, driven by expansion in services and industry, boosted exports, particularly in coffee and gold, and increased oil sector investment. Domestic programs like the PDM also played a role in extending economic participation to more communities across the country. While this growth is encouraging, budgets must ultimately translate into impact, into jobs created, areas cleared, and opportunities unlocked for entrepreneurs and households alike. That's why we view the enhanced allocation of 1.4 trillion towards domestic areas as a signal of intent, an important step in restoring liquidity to the business community and rebuilding trust in the public-private value chain. It's also why we at Absa are not just watching from the sidelines. Our purpose is clear: to be an active catalyst for inclusive growth. We empower livelihoods, back business resilience, and enable bold ambition across Uganda. Our lending is anchored in sectors that align with the country's development agenda: agriculture, trade, manufacturing, and personal finance. We support farmers with inputs, manufacturers with scale, and SMEs with working capital. But beyond capital, we provide insights, digital tools, and partnerships that business need to navigate the volatility that's in the environment that we operate in and to seize whatever opportunities are available. Because in the end, policy alone doesn't move economies, collaboration does. That's why today's dialogue is so important for us. This year, we're leaning more into real business realities, from tax policy to the true impact of agro-industrialization efforts to the evolving role of government programs like PDM. We are here to engage, debate, and surface the questions that matter to those on the ground. I want to thank our event partners, NTV Uganda, Deloitte, and our panelists for giving their time, expertise, and insight to today's discussion. To our customers, stakeholders, and fellow private sector actors, thank you for joining us. We value your voices and partnership as we work together to shape a future where policy meets practice and ambition meets action. I wish you all a thought-provoking and productive dialogue. Thank you.
Mr. David Wanderer, the MD ABSA. As you have had revenue target for this year, 37 trillion, question, can we achieve that? We shall be hearing some answers. And part of the reason for the next financial year's budget is to strengthen economic growth drivers that underpin the restoration of the economy. In other words, there are 4 focus areas, and this budget is attached to the NDP4. In some of those key areas, agro-industry, tourism, mineral sector, and of course, oil. I love that they have put oil somewhere in the back. I don't know why. At some point, it was very eminent, but now we're talking about agro-industry first. Tourism, minerals, then oil. I want to think maybe it's deliberate. Oil, of course, will come in to shore us up, but yes, this story of agro-industry is something that has been in the outgoing cycle, and it finds itself in the NDP4. So agro-industry, are we seeing impact? How are we going to get the impact? How are we going to get agriculture and industry to merge? Personally, I hope to hear some answers tonight, this morning. Let me now invite Madame Petronilla Nambiru from Deloitte. She's the Associate Director, Tax and Legal Affairs at Deloitte, and she's going to give us a presentation that is going to provoke us into thinking and setting the pace for this morning's, I want to call it chat, but the serious type. Madam, welcome.
The Permanent Secretary, Secretary to Treasury, Mr. Ramadan Gobi, our partners, ABSA and NTV, ladies and gentlemen, both here in the room and those who are watching us at home. We thank you for joining us this morning and hope that you will get involved in the discussions taking place today. My task this morning is simply to provide a precursor to the discussions, to provide context. We've all had the chance to hear the budget read, to read what's in the papers. What does that mean for us as a business or for us, a Ugandan? The budget is not something that is hypothetical. It's not something in the air. It's something that affects each one of us. And it's important that every Ugandan and every person in Uganda thinks about how that is going to impact them. So as I start off the presentation, I would like to first put into perspective where Uganda is looking to go. We have Parliament passed, and the President, His Excellency, the President of Uganda, launched the National Development Plan, the 4th one, which is the anchor for a number of the things and the goals that we do have. That is quite ambitious. We have an ambitious plan as Uganda. That plan is looking for Uganda to grow tenfold, so our GDP to grow tenfold by 2040. The budget is an annual thing, but this plan is a long-term plan. So every year as we plan and money is allocated to the different initiatives, to the different programs that need to happen, you also need to think about from a business perspective. And as we talk about enabling business and whether the budget does that, where are we intending to go? What is the end game? So currently, we stand at a GDP growth of 6.1. We want to have, a GDP growth by 2030. We want that to have doubled. By 2040, we want that to be tenfold. So with a GDP of 64 billion USD currently, and by 2040, seeking to have a GDP of 500 billion USD, I will let that sit with you for a while. So we are moving from 64 right now to 500 by 2040. That is the plan. Is it feasible? Let's look at the economy as it is, because that plan has to start somewhere. And the realities of what the plan is then needs to sink in. But as business, there is the opportunity. As Ugandans, the opportunities are there. It's just a matter of understanding how those can be achieved. Apologies, technology is, I had a presentation, but technology has decided to act otherwise. This seemed to always happen. So I'll just ask if someone can. Okay. So when we look at what we currently have in terms of our GDP growth, and we look at that curve, where we've been and where we are projected to go. So this data is based on an IMF report. So this is the projection for our growth. Again, I would like us to think about the 500 billion growth we hope to have. So there's opportunity for every business, for every Ugandan, for everyone in Uganda to help achieve that. But what will it take to actually get there? And is the budget that has been read today, that was read yesterday, does that actually enable that to happen? This is a comparison of our neighbors, and some of them doing better than others. We are doing better than some, but if you look at that, Rwanda seems to be projected to do quite well, but this is how we stand as an East African community. Trade deficit, this is about our imports versus our exports. So we are clearly importing more than we are exporting. Our exports do continue to increase, but that is something that will then need to be reduced. So exports need to increase, especially if you want to have exchange, control your exchange, especially if you want to grow the economy. Because when you operate in an economy where you're importing more, which means you're utilizing Forex to actually purchase those, then you need to think about, again, from a business perspective, how does that impact you? What does that mean on a day-to-day? In terms of what is projected for the trade deficit, we do see, looking at that forecast, you do see that although there's expected to be an increase in the short term, so 7.1%, that is mainly as a factor of the ramp up as we try to finalize, as investments into the oil and gas happen. However, once that comes online, then you do see that deficits start to reduce. Okay? I'm not going to speak a lot about the budgetary allocations. We've all had them, we've seen them, but that's just a snapshot of the same. This information we've all seen. Hopefully we've all digested or are still digesting. But what is also important is to think about the government programs or initiatives, especially those that are meant to bring what we call the Muntu wa wansi into the contributing part of the economy. One of the challenges has always been that we have a huge informal sector, so not everyone, in spite of a population of 48 million plus, not everyone is contributing towards that. So how do you get more people to contribute so that even as we talk about the tax measures and the increase in the tax collection target, there are more people who will contribute towards that. And as a reminder, GDP, when we talk about GDP, it's always about what's the output in terms of goods sold, in terms of services provided. So if more people contribute to that, then GDP can go up. If less people are contributing, then that is a challenge that does need to be overcome. However, looking at just this information for PDM, looking at the household that, and the regions where you have the greatest need versus where this has been provided, there is a disparity for some of the regions. And also noting a report based on the recent census, it's so less than 1% of the coverage of targeted household beneficiaries have, so we need to think about that as well. PDM has been in place for about 3 years now, so what needs to change? If they are beneficiaries, what needs to change for those beneficiaries to actually receive and for PDM money to work as it should? Tax, the one thing there are two things you can't run away from, death and taxes. There's certainty in that will happen. There is an increment of the tax revenue target to 37 trillion. As some of you may be aware, the Revenue Authority has struggled to meet the current target it has in this financial year and in the past financial year. So the question then is, what is changing for the tax authority? And does the budget address some of the challenges to be able to collect more than, or to have a target that is more than was there in the prior year? What has changed? Okay. As previously mentioned, there are not a lot of tax measures that have been introduced. Some of those measures the public should be happy with. The tax amnesty, that has been extended. Some people have utilized that. For some people, the window was a bit too short, so they weren't able to utilize the amnesty. Then for startups, as has been mentioned, if you, as a Ugandan, if you decide to open a business in July 2025, okay? You need to meet certain criteria, but if your investment is less than 500 million, you can get a 3-year exemption from tax. But the requirement is that you need to comply with certain things. One of the interesting ones, and that everyone needs to think about, is just in terms of how the Revenue Authority is trying also to widen the tax base. A lot has been said in terms of, taxes being collected from the same individuals, from the same businesses. So part of what is being proposed is that rather than a tax identification number, when you're an individual, for tax purposes, it's your national identification number that becomes your identifier. So for those who have been hiding, you need to prepare now to be found. One of the things we are aware of that URA has grappled with is you have someone who has rental income, they have a TIN, or they are registered a certain way. The names don't match. Then they have another form of income, maybe employment, it's a different name. So those challenges, the Revenue Authority is trying to address them by introducing the requirement for a NIN for individuals as an identifier. So that's what you quote. When you raise an invoice as an individual, you quote your national identification number. As a business, when you raise a tax invoice, when you're filing your taxes, you include your registration with Uganda Registration Bureau. So it's about creating visibility. But as a taxpayer then, and especially for businesses, the question is going to become the transition period to allow businesses to be able to actually adopt in their systems. Because right now, you're using tax identification number. If there's a shift in which the identifier to use, there needs to be time to actually change systems, it's a lot of work. And hopefully, in this, there will be time for transition to allow taxpayers to do that. But that's on the tax measures. I think now moving to the budget itself and the allocation and the challenges that need to be overcome. So while certain goals, so you start to hear the acronym ATMS, okay? And a lot of you may not be familiar with it, but start to get familiar with it. So that's how we move forward to the 500 billion USD by 2040. And those are the priorities, okay? It's priorities in agriculture, so agro-industrialization, it's tourism development, okay? It's mineral-based and oil and gas. And then, of course, we cannot forget digitalization, technology, that. So there's a strong focus on that. So those are how we get there, okay? And as part of the budget, there have been allocation towards achieving this. Is it enough? Is it in the right places? That's a different question. But there is an opportunity as a business, as a Ugandan, as a person in Uganda, in terms of tapping into this. Because when you know where the government is prioritizing, then ultimately you should be able to get a bit of that pie, okay? But what are the challenges that we need to deal with? Because there are challenges. There are lots of things we need to overcome to be able to get where we are headed. Is a budget enabling, business outcomes? Yes or no? We need to think about some of these things, okay? How do we cater for the critical gaps, especially when it comes to the SDG goals? Things related to health, related to education. There are areas, and these are enablers, there are areas where work still needs to be done. How do we increase that tax revenue collection? Okay? Because our ambitions are quite high, but it also requires that we are now moving from, currently we're at about 14.3% of GDP in terms of our revenue, but to get to that 500 billion, it means it's about 25%, give or take. Is it possible? Given our history, given where we are coming from, is that a possibility? Then last but not least, how do we improve fiscal discipline? How does the government, in terms of the social contract between public sector, government and the private sector, how is that social contract enforced? Because as a business, as a person who contributes towards growth, there's an expectation that the roads have been done, that there's efficiency in government services, that what government is also supposed to be providing is being done. How do we address the issue of corruption? And His Excellency did talk about it quite a bit. For those who watched the budget yesterday and listened to his speech, but what are the actions to actually move us there? So that's the challenge. Like I said, the opportunity is there. So how are you going to respond to that? The other challenge we need to address is the issue of youth unemployment. We have a large, Uganda's population is mainly young. COVID did worsen certain things, okay? And we are still recovering from those. So you have these young men and women who are either unemployed or underemployed, not earning enough. How do you deal with this? What are the programs to enable them? So PDM could be part of that, but what else is being done to accelerate this group to ensure that they are contributing towards the achievement of that 500 billion? We had a shock earlier this year, and this is a reality as well. Geopolitics, we can't run away from it. Things that happen outside this country have an impact on what happens internally. Everyone is aware of what happened with, the aid freeze USAID and the pullout of, funding to critical sectors, I must say, for Uganda. So things related to health that have been supported. So while in the budget, normally there's an amount, that is expected as external funding, USAID, as an example, was funding a lot more. So the money that USAID was putting into Uganda, programs in Uganda, was a lot more than what is necessarily included in the budget. Now that has come out, it's coming out. How is that gap bridged? Now, while there's a recognition that, when you do look at the budget this time and the allocation to health, there's been a significant jump for health, and that's one of the critical areas, but there's a lot more that was being supported in terms of USAID funds. And when things happen, right now in America, they happen somewhere else. So we are also seeing aid being cut by other, countries. So we need to be responsive to this and be aware that when we start to plan at the start of the year, there are shocks that we can't control, but they have an impact. Are we prepared for those shocks? Can we bridge the gap when those shocks happen? Okay? So this is the last word in terms of how we can perhaps look forward and get where we need to be. So we need to review government priorities and expenditures to align to what needs to be done. So there are allocations to different sectors. Are those perhaps the right, areas? Once those allocations have been done, are we doing a post-mortem to ensure that they're achieving what needs to be done? We need to leverage financing from elsewhere, perhaps, and then sustainability, okay? Local programs with specific KPIs. I submit this morning. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you very much, Madam Petronella. I hope we are now in the thinking frame. She's tried to condense the key things. And let's not forget, we're asking this morning, is the budget a business enabler? We're thinking around that so we don't get scattered in our discussion. Before I invite my, people call me the MC. I am this junior moderator. I'm about to invite my senior moderator to come. Just a few things before I invite Dr. Fred Muhumuza. Somewhere in the budget I saw money around climate smart agriculture and climate related issues. I want to know how we get that money around climate change. And then this issue of taxing agriculture was taken off the table. I don't know, in terms of growing the business, rather the tax base. Can some agriculture be? I'm a journalist, so I've had this issue forever, and it has come and gone. I still think agriculture can be taxed, but maybe it's not an issue for today, or maybe it's an issue for today. And with PDM, I did see in the parliamentary report for the budget that there were registration issues of registration, naming, and basically the legitimacy of the SACCOs that take PDM money. I hope we can hear something about that. And finally, let me thank the PSST personally, and there are many of you who are going to agree with me, for helping us fix the road from Nigeria to Chida up to Bulindo. I know many of you live in that suburb. If you're the rest of Uganda watching us, sorry guys, but for personal interest, let me thank you, sir, for putting money there so that we can ride not on a rough road. Let me now invite my senior moderator, Dr. Fred Muhumuza, to take us to what we call fireside chat. Fireside chat. We don't usually get the PSST. It's not easy to get anyhow. So when you get him, you want to really engage. So, Doctor, welcome.
Yes, sir. Why don't you come and do our fireside? Clap for the PSST as he comes in. We have left the middle seat here for the fire, so he's going to sit right in the middle there. Assume there is a fire between us, and where there is a fire, we roast maize. Where there is a big kettle of tea in between. Okay. I'm sure there is no fire. Congratulations, sir, on the budget. Not an easy task, but it's a usual thing that you have always done. Scoring goals is some of the business of people, and they always score them. So I want to give you congratulations on that, but also there were questions that were raised that would transition through. We're going to have this conversation through. We're going to have this conversation with ourselves and with yourselves. So we'll be inviting you in here to listen into the PSST. I would really want this to be a chat on assurances. You put the budget out there, people have read it, people have delved into it. As you've been hearing the headline, they're saying the money has come. So people really just need assurances, and you may want to give those assurances. And congratulations on getting back the World Bank on board. But there are also some other headwinds that are still out there. So maybe we want to start there, the thing that Petronella raised, preparations for some headwinds. I want to believe as the budget was being made, there were those kinds of headwinds that people should be that you faced, and you possibly came through with some solutions, or you have some ambitions on how basically those would be dealt with. So I want to listen to you about the Tenfold Growth, which is an ambitious program, but also what are those headwinds that you see that may come in the medium term, and how we prepared to deal with them so that we don't get derailed off course on the journey of the Tenfold Growth. Yes, sir.
These mics are not. Thank you very much, Dr. Muhumuza. But I will start by thanking once again our hosts, NTV, of course, the Nation Media Group as the bigger mother, and Absa Bank. I'm always happy to have interactions and conversations around the economy. So thank you for getting us this moment. And I've also seen a number of big people in the room who manage the different entities that give us the money in Uganda. Money is very, very important. When I was still a teacher, I used to tell my students, never listen to anyone who tells you that money is not everything. And if you want to prove that money is everything, you don't have it. You understand? So I recognize the various people who give us the money in the country in terms of businesses that employ us, that give us the tax revenue, that also create a number of other opportunities for other businesses to make money. Now, I wanted to, before I answer your questions, Dr. Muhumuza, to kind of rein in a bit on, first on the numbers, because I've seen when we have conversations, it's good that we should use the numbers which have come out of the official sources. First, to clarify, the GDP growth for this year has been estimated at 6.3%, not 6.1. 6.3% for this financial year by our Uganda Bureau of Statistics, which compiles the official numbers of Uganda. The GDP itself is not 64 billion. My minister read it. These numbers are there. The population, we have just had a census. Use the population that the census found, not what others are estimating. They might be big organizations like UN or whatever, but our population is compiled by the Uganda Bureau of Statistics. Use them. We have also been engaging them to ensure, but they talk of some lost population, that some people might not be there. So they always add there some 5 million people. We have been engaging them, and they made a commitment not to go around doing those things again. So we should develop the mantle to use our numbers. That's what other societies do. But for us in Uganda, we want to trust our neighbors better than our own home. Now, when it comes to the $500 billion economy, ladies and gentlemen, in Uganda now we're on a mission, we are people on a mission. And I think some people think we are still in business as usual. No, we are on a mission to change our destiny, and it is in our hands. And I would want to mobilize every Ugandan to join this mission, to join this ambition. We are tired of being a poor country. We have the ability also to change ourselves. The way we have changed our individual selves, for example, some of us in this room, perhaps we doubted what we could be, but we are now what we are. Also, the economy of Uganda, cumulatively, can get there. There are some societies, that country called Dubai, and the Dubai, of course, is one of the cities within the country called United Arab Emirates. But I will focus on Dubai because at least I've gotten some information about Dubai. For those of you who are perhaps around in the early 90s, Dubai was a poor country, was a poor place in the sand there in the desert. And the leaders there, Sheikh Maktoum, the senior man, said, no, we must change our destiny. So he said we must develop this place and make it the most attractive place on earth. Imagine in a desert with the sand and everything. And around the same time, there were people across in South Korea who were also struggling to accelerate growth. And the leader of South Korea had called a team of people in the room. I will not bore you with the names because we are not familiar with them, and asked these people, what can we do for that country called Dubai, for UAE, for us to take advantage, because South Korea is a country without resources, but it has some good human capital, human beings, they're educated. And they don't like this thing of going to work outside Korea, diaspora and so on. So he sent a group of people to go and find out in Dubai what they can do to fulfill the ambition of the other man who had gotten oil and he wanted to use it to change forever that place. The people he sent, when they went back, they told him, the other place is so difficult, you can't do much. First of all, it is too hot. The temperatures reach 52 degrees Celsius, not Fahrenheit. So our engineers will not be able to work in that place. They will die. Number two, there is no water. For us to work in that place, you need water. The water is too far from the place, and it is salty. Number three, there is no nightlife, because the entire place is dead. Our engineers, they are used to this place here. They will not be able to survive in that place. The man said, okay, I've heard, bye-bye. He got another team of 3 men, led by a guy called Panasonic. That one I will say because you have an idea about Panasonic. And he sent them to Gandhi double check. They came back and told him the other one is the perfect place for us to have a good opportunity for Korea. Why? Number one, yes, true as these people told you, the temperatures are so hot. But that means we have the opportunity of our engineers spending the day sleeping in the AC, and then they work at night. Number two, true, the place does not have water. So we have an opportunity of starting the project of desalinating the water. So our first project, we should sell to this man with the oil, is to provide him with the good water by building the largest desalinating facility. And they built it. Then three, indeed there is no nightlife, but that is good. That means our people will save all of the money and they bring it back home instead of spending it in the UAE. And to cut the whole story short, that's how Korea and UAE struck a chord that eventually accelerated the growth of both places. And now, as they say, both economies are some of the most attractive and developed economies in the world, to the extent that even what we think are developed countries, their populations now spend more time in Dubai, in a desert, than they spend in their own places, looking for opportunities and also good life. Therefore, I want to mobilize all of us to take away the impossibility thesis from our heads and start to see the possibility of this country called Uganda. The problem we have with Uganda, we are so heavily endowed, and that's a big problem. We have a lot of resources. We can survive very comfortably without money, and it's a very big problem. It's only, actually Uganda, I think, is the only country in the world where you can survive without money. And that's a big, big problem we are having. We need to work on it. We need to develop that mentor that looks at the glasses as half full, not half empty. And we start these conversations of how do we utilize these opportunities, because there are innumerable opportunities for us to get out. That's where we built the $500 billion kind of trajectory. It's a very beautiful dream where we have modeled and found that if we change certain things, and there are only 5 things we need to change, we shall be able to actually get there. Forget about these ATMs and so on. Those are the things we are going to invest in, but there are certain things we must change. First, we must clean up. We must clean up by enforcing rules of the game in Uganda, by enforcing the laws, the regulations, the things that we set out to do, and we do them. In other words, we must discipline ourselves as a country. The discipline right from our households, but most importantly, at the societal level. You look at the way we behave in the markets, on the roads, in the banks, all of us, we know the challenges we are having. Sometimes we blame cyber when the cyber is a human being, okay? all these things, we need to see how do we clean up. Secondly, we must team up. Uganda, we must build that discipline of consensus, that discipline of getting teams to work, of people knowing that you are nothing without others. There are certain people who think that they are so important in organizations, in institutions, than the institutions themselves. No, sir, no, madam. You can die. Uganda will stay. An institution will stay. And then, therefore, you need to get the discipline of working through others so that we can achieve the teamwork, the consensus. At national level, we have a big problem on consensus, goal consensus. We say we are good doing this. The following day, you see people doing other things. Now we are saying it is ATMs, which are priorities. That thing is not ATMs, no, ATMs, please. You know ATM? The ATM is to put in a machine and you draw money. But you can't draw money where you have not deposited. You have to first save for you to find money in ATM. That acronym, ATMs, which of course stands for those things, was deliberately crafted to work on our mental, that we are going as a country to invest in certain things for us to be able in the future to draw bigger GDP. And when we agree that these are the priorities, then we ourselves, we want to put more resources in other things other than those things. That is the indiscipline we have to work on. How do we team up and get the consensus that this is what we want to do? Thirdly, we must skill up. We must skill up ourselves as a country. There is no country which has transformed with so many people who are not employable. Many of our younger people are not only unemployed, they are unemployable. We need to ensure that we skill up, that we invest in those critical areas which are demanded by the market. Don't work with the supply side driven, skilling. Let us use the industry, the private sector. Which type of skills do you need to digitize, to ensure that we innovate, and so on, and we skill up? Number 4, we must green up. Green up. Gone are the days where development is going to come from dirty places. Development, we must realize that now is clean development. And therefore, there is need for us to preserve the environment as we pursue growth by ensuring that our investments are climate smart. My good friend, a man who is one of the smartest journalists I know, he was talking of that agriculture, climate smart agriculture. I will give you all of the details. I have them. And how do we take advantage of these so that we can grow our agriculture without affecting the environment. We can industrialize, but in a responsible way. We can develop infrastructure which is going to be resilient, and so on and so forth. And finally is the aspect of ensuring that we can also, at a regional level, there is one up where we need to work on our regional value chains, the regional value chains. The president yesterday, the president uses history and some analogies to explain, but he was making one fundamental point. We are nothing as Uganda without Africa. But to go to Africa, you start with your neighbors, without East Africa. Sometimes some people ask us who are in government, why are you allowing these goods to come here? Why don't you protect us? We also ask you, where will you sell the goods? Because when you are targeting only Ugandans, that's where you will find this problem of market. There is not enough market. You need the others. Like now we are getting more money from Democratic Republic of Congo, from South Sudan, from Rwanda, than perhaps we are getting from ourselves in certain areas. Congo is giving us over $800 million a year. That Democratic Republic of Congo. South Sudan, nearly $400 million a year. Rwanda, over $250 million. Kenya, something like $600 million. Now, these are, imagine if we could now extend to the rest of Africa and we pick on average $200 million from these partners of ours. These regional, what do they need? Which we have, which we can work on with them. That is where we saw Dr. Muhumuza. I could go on and on, but I wanted to feed you in that apart from these things we know, for us, we are now focused. And we published also a 10-fold growth strategy. Please visit our website, look at it, and see the thinking, the thought process on what we feel. If we changed them, there was some tweaking, we stand a very good chance of growing this economy tenfold.
Thank you, PSS. You've talked about strategic partnerships like Korea and the UAE did. Are there any specific countries beyond the ones you have already mentioned in the region out there that we're looking at, and what exactly are we looking at in terms of the ATMs and the other strategic partnerships?
Yes, we are working with a number of partners. Of course, you've seen at a highest level partnerships with the UAE. We are going to develop our oil together with the UAE, starting with the oil refinery. We are going to build a 60,000 barrels a day oil refinery. It's a perfect fit for our market. We don't want to target our refined products to go to places which we cannot easily take it. We want it mainly for regional, ours and the region. It's actually perfect in terms of the numbers, if you look at them. So we have partnered with them because they have done it. Now they are transitioning out of oil into the knowledge economy. We want to work with them on that. We are also partnering with, of course, the Far East. We are looking at how we can work with China, how we can work with Russia, how we can work with Turkey, and we industrialize. What we are looking at is how do we accelerate the industrialization in this country? Because no country, except very few, which have also been, because they are city-states, but by and large, every country you look at has managed to transform because of industrialization. So our main area of partnership is how do we get what we don't have from those places. What don't we have in Uganda? We are capital technology constrained. Our country does not have capital. We have small money, which is also expensive. Why is our money small? Because most of us don't save. We save in the morning, we are depleting it in the afternoon. These banks have savings accounts. They say, come and open a savings account at ABSA. I open, but they give me ATM card. I save in the bank hall in the morning. Then as I go home, I start to think, you know, life is short. I might die. Then I change my mind. I go and put in the card and draw the money.
PSST, you're right, I don't have their card. And they are my bankers for that very reason.
Yes.
I want to stay away from my money. So once I leave it in the banking hall, I'm happy to know the bank closes at 3.
Yes. As you know, Dr. Mumza, you and I, we have been teaching this economics. The patience, you know, patience to ensure that you can be able to save. Please, if you want to save, there are certain things you should take away from yourself. Only know how to send the money to the bank. Don't allow the banker to give you that ATM, that convenience, even mobile, that I can shift money from the account to the phone. You will never save. However much you try and you say, for me, I'm disciplined. No human being has that ability. Make it difficult for you to access the money. Fix it, and you know they penalize you when you draw it before, and that will help. But now, I was saying that we are a capital constrained country because our longer term financing is not dependent. We have a lot of money, but short term. On current account, these demand deposits. Each of us in the room, we know where our money is right now. And you know really what I'm talking about. I'm not saying that I'm different, the same. Therefore, because we are capital constrained, we look for people who have capital that is patient, that they can invest in certain areas, and we bring them. That's the number one partnership. Then 2, technology. We also technology constrained. We are inefficient innovators. And it doesn't pay for us to spend a lot of money and effort trying to innovate where others have already done it. The smarter way is to partner with those people. They bring the technology, and remember, technology, which sometimes called know-how, moves with someone's brain. There's this mistake we make. We say technology transfer is when you send Ugandans to Korea to teach them on how to do things. It will take centuries to transform. The smarter way is to open up your borders, and you get smart people into your country to do with them partnerships. They move with their technology in the head, but as you work with them, they transfer it to you naturally. That's why most successful places in the world are those that understood this early enough. If you go to the United States of America, you hear Trump is chasing away people. Trump will never chase away a smart person in Silicon Valley. Never. Or somewhere. Actually, the smart people are the ones whom he is employing to chase away others. And they are also immigrants. That gentleman, Elon Musk, he has moved from South Africa the other day. Now he's the one who was working with Trump to chase away others. One of the smartest guys. So we need to get those smart people also in Uganda, making it easier, and it's part of the strategy.
I think that speaks to one of the challenges, and I'm going to come to you, to maybe two of you, to ask the PSST a question or two from your own side. There have been challenges of implementation, and you've published the 10-fold growth strategy, but one of the difficult issues that Uganda has had is actually implementation. Are there views that you want to change? You'll be talking about changes that we need to see as we get out there. Maybe you want to speak to those changes.
I will start with the example of PDM to explain this. The presenter alluded to some things about the parish development model. As you know, government has had so many programs in the past to alleviate poverty, but also to create wealth. And some of the evaluations, some of them might not have been so scientific, but using naked evidence, those evaluations have found that perhaps some of these programs did not perform to the expectation fully. Of course, sometimes we are unfair to those programs because, number one, these programs, much as they had a label, national program, they were very, very small programs. Tokenism. Those things like Entandikwa. Entandikwa, from when it started until it closed, it is spent 76 billion shillings. 76 billion. National program. And several others. I will not go into detail. Now, parish development model is a mass program. It's well funded. And I wanted also to inform you that it is being managed in a different way from the way we are used to managing national programs. First of all, we have now fully automated it, digitized it. We use the PDM-IS to identify a beneficiary. The parish development model information system is used to identify a beneficiary in a parish. I'm coming from a parish called Kasozi in Butambala. I asked my people, I want you to identify for me the beneficiaries in Kasozi who are eligible for this, and I see. And they went, they took all the pictures and so on of people. And in there you can easily see and eliminate elite capture, because you easily see that this person here in this parish is the elite of the parish. You know, even in poor people, there are those who are just poor. And then there are those who are, I don't want to say that. Now, the PDM-IS is identifying the beneficiary. That beneficiary is prepared. That's why some people have been always saying, where is the money? Politicians especially. This PDM of yours, PSST, when I had just come, they were harassing me in parliament, everywhere. You are not sending, you don't have even the money, you are lying. I said, money to be sent to who? To do what? First identify that person and prepare them. These people were prepared to identify enterprises they are going to do out of the 7. The menu is 7 enterprises. Which one are you going to do? Do you have the resources? Then after identifying and preparing that person, then we have Wendy now. Wendy application to send the money to that person through Wendy. Now everybody celebrated in government. We have eliminated the middlemen. Money is going to move from the treasury to the other beneficiary. We sat down and we asked ourselves, are we sure that this money has gone to that particular beneficiary who was prepared? Number two, are we sure that that beneficiary is using the money for the purpose that he had reported to his enterprise group that is going to do, that you are going to do poultry, and when we send the money, you don't change your mind and you buy a blanket and some other things. So we said, no, now there is a gap. We brought in another capability called Zaid. Zaid is an application which now tracks and monitors the beneficiary. From the date he received the money, how is he doing? They go back and... Now, the challenge was, who's going to manage this? We had to leverage the government capabilities. We have internal security organization. Those guys who, they must be now in the room spying here. As you spy, go and spy on this household here as well. What is he doing? And use technology. So we pinned every household in Uganda on a GPS. All of us here in this room, we are pinned. We know, by the way, government knows where you sleep and how you go back there and what you are doing there and so on. They are all pinned, these households. So these guys now brought me a system, brought us, and I said, my minister and the entire top management, look here. Identify anyone in your village whom you want to check on. They say someone in this village, and they put in the system, and we can see that person using a national identifier, and which is unique to him, and we get that person in that village, what activity is doing. If he said, I'm doing a piggery, we can find out whether there are pigs there or not. It can be found. Now, this has helped to solve so many issues, because number one, in Uganda, there are some redundant words we use: mobilization, sensitization, sijui what and what. Those words are not economics. Economics is about incentives and danger. Create good incentives, create enough danger. You have solved the issues. And I want to assure you, PDM is a national program that is working as far as the financial inclusion is concerned. But it has gaps in linking all of the pillars so that we can now get the effective kind of performance that we wanted. And that's what we are now sorting out on how do we get now this person who has received the money is productive, getting extension services, getting those who are going to purchase his products, and so on and so forth. Those are the things we are working on, and we hope we shall be able to leverage technology also to solve them.
Thank you, PSST. Any two hands out there? I see two on this table. I don't know why I should be constrained to that table, and then there's a third one. Setumba, do we have some mics that can move? Okay. Let's clear that table. Please try to be brief. Just one question or one comment. You can even cheer up the PSST for putting a system in place that knows where you sleep.
Thank you, PSST. Good morning, everyone. My name is Sharon. I work at FSD Uganda. PSST, you talked about the need for skilling. and how it may be difficult to grow the economy when people are not skilled. But we see an increase in the dropout rates, both at primary level and secondary level. What are we not doing there, or what do we plan to do to ensure that the young generation stays in school? Thank you.
Thank you. Let's have the second and the third, and then we'll be back to the PSST.
Good morning. My name is Daniel Ayebari, and I'm the chairperson of the Uganda Financial Literacy Association. PSST, I'm first of all grateful for the work that you've put in, especially on the inclusion side. Our deliverables are really on the inclusion side, and we have seen considerable support from the ministry in terms of promoting financial literacy. I'm following up on a suggestion I made to you last year regarding the concept of social business, and this is really on the implementation side, because our association is run on a social business platform, and we are seeing progress from two angles. Number one, our financial literacy trainers are actually getting employed, but we are solving the issue of information reaching the last person. And so there's a ripple effect in this concept. So I was hoping you could give me an update, or if it's not around, I would like to follow up on that, because we are seeing it taken up, especially by the young people, in terms of them adding value to the agenda for the tenfold growth, while they themselves can be able to benefit directly. Thank you.
Okay, you have your minute.
Thank you so much for convening us, Absa Bank and NTV. PSST, thank you for your good work at finance. You highlighted through the budget and the state of the national address that gold and coffee are the top Uganda's total export earnings. But the gold seems to be a conclave of the Vatican. How does it work, and how does it triple down to the Omontua 1C from Butambala? And lastly, you've talked of the PDM. It's a good gesture towards social uplifting of the population from poverty, but the gaps in beneficiary selection is based on political affiliations. And there is a neglected section because of their political shades. But these are Ugandans and taxpayers. How are you going to remove that impediment from PDM? Thank you so much. I submit. Robert Chigongo.
PSST maybe want to... Oh, there is... Anybody have not seen? Preferably a lady. There is a lady right where you have passed. Let me annoy the gentleman who shall settle it in the evening over the express penalty system.
Thank you so much for the gender equity on that. My name is Lillian Kamanzi Mugisha, and I work with AMREF Health Africa in Uganda. I head communications and fundraising. AMREF is a health-based organization that supports the Ministry of Health for the last 36 years. My question is really on the current negative, navigating the challenges of the geopolitical shift, and currently looking at the reshaping of global trade, investment, and economic relationships. And we want to understand what is our government going to do to navigate the negative impact and capitalize on the emerging opportunities, and also the budget with our Ministry of Health, which is, I think, one of the most affected ministries in regards to the geopolitical shift, but also looking at the jobs lost for the so many people, and majorly young people, who are being supported, and the different donors. Thank you.
Let the PSST first deal up with those. We'll see if we have opportunities to get around. We also have a panel that's also going to come in, PSST.
Thank you very much. On the dropouts, first of all, this is something we have been interrogating. The numbers that seem to be implied in the dropouts, they are really scandalous when you look at the numbers on the face value. But we've discovered that the first thing we need to do is to interrogate those numbers, because there has also been one weakness in the way we do things. We incentivized inflated numbers by tagging capitation grants in schools on the number of children in the school, that each child will get, say, 20,000 capitation. And what some of these heads of schools have been doing is to register big numbers of children who are not there. I don't want to call them ghost children because I will be abusing our children. We don't have ghosts in children. But they register children who are not there, like you say, I've enrolled 300 children in primary one, and you put them now on the register, you send to the government, and you start getting capitation grant. But now remember that those children who are not there cannot sit PLE. So as you move towards PLE, you go on dropping them out, so that by the time there's registration for PLE, now you have the actual number of human beings, and the other ones who are ghosts have now been killed. Just one sample was done of one district in Ntungamo, and the numbers I saw from my internal auditor general, they were alarming, of the ghosts that they discovered there. The Internal Security Organization also was called into action because of a school in Yumbe that reported to its donors that it needed some facilities, some help. They had some donors, and this is a government school, but you know how people always want to portray Uganda as the poorest place on earth. So they go ask for these desks where kids sit to learn. They gave them desks for 800 children. And when they arrived at the school, there were no even rooms where to put them. There were only 2 classes, and about only 100 pupils. And these desks were piled now under a tree because it was ordination, and someone nosy in that village tipped the diesel that there is something here. These people have desks, and when they came to inquire, the donors had been told that this school had 800 children. Now, to go backwards and check, they came and they carried out a kind of a fact-finding mission, and they found that about 80% of the schools in Yumbe had inflated their the population of pupils by 1,002% on total. So some of these numbers now end up in our numbers, that you have a lot of Ugandans dropping out. Of course, there are children who are dropping out of school, but not to the magnitude which was being reported. Now, to those who are dropping out of school, it's a combination, it's a very complex thing you need to analyze. Are these schools actually making children learn? Because we must make Ugandans learn. If they are not learning, you know, human beings are the most smartest animals. Even if they are very small like this, once they see here, there's no learning, it's better to go and market things. They will leave the school. So we are working first on the schools themselves, beginning with the infrastructure, and my minister gave a comprehensive report yesterday. That's why the budget speech was a longer speech, because it was accounting for what we've done and what we are planning to do. And I would really implore every Ugandan to look at that speech, the booklet, and we understand where we are coming from, where we are, and where we want to go, and how we are planning to get there. So we are working on the learning environment itself. We are working on the household incomes themselves, because parents will not keep children in school when the children have to work for themselves as well to survive. You know, if a family is finding it so difficult even to feed them, they will say, you first dig, you first get food, or first go and work to the neighbor. And once these kids get tired of working and now they are learning things which also themselves are not well taught, they decide to drop out. Others, you know, the causes, pregnancy, early pregnancies and so on, because of, again, the environment in which they are working. So it's a comprehensive challenge. Development is never a simple linear that I will tell you we are doing this, and it has to be holistic to deal with it in a number of areas.
I wanted to add there that you also possibly want to think about strengthening the birth and death registration system, so that will advance to us how many children are in a locality to be quick to capture those inflated figures.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
So, now, you know, statistics and data and accountability is one of our big challenges which we are working on. We have now a new system called Itela, and it is helping in identifying the learners, but also the teachers in each of these government schools. Are they there? One time I called the Ministry of Education team that is working on it. They came, fantastic system. You ask them, any school in Uganda, if you know it in Karamoja, put for me this school, and they have a system there. It can show you in real time how many teachers have reported in school and when did they leave. Now you find a certain school, there are only 3 teachers in a school of 7 classes, and some with distance. So this is going to help in improving the standard of learning. The social business, I think we shall need to talk more and take it to another level. I always like innovative ideas. I'm available. I don't want to waste time talking about this or that. Come and we have a conversation and we take to another level. The gold and coffee being top earners, and how do we get the gold, people of Uganda to benefit from the gold and so on. Of course, these are big dollar earners, but they are not very democratic sectors like a gold. Of course, coffee is quite a democratic one. There are about 76 districts which are coffee growing. We are adding on another 24 districts in coffee growing. So whenever you see good money from coffee, which now is at $1.83 billion this year, you know, people are getting some money in the villages. I have a friend who I'm working with, a colleague at the ministry from Masaka, who was called by one of the people in Masaka there now recently, and they were saying, for us here, now we have one problem. The bank is far. Please, can you bring the bank near? Because we are making money. He said, how about the thieves? You hear they are thieves of coffee. They said they steal some, but still the money is a lot on what is remaining. Now, of course, this is a boom. And you know, booms burst. There's a time when they burst. We would want to see how do we get this economy broad-based in terms of the sectors. It is not going to be gold and coffee alone. It's going to have, we shall have a spectrum of enterprises. That's why we are promoting different enterprises. When you look at what we are doing and also getting the economy diversified. In 1995, coffee was contributing 66%, 2/3 of our export earnings. Today, with that big amount of money we are getting from coffee, it is contributing 14% of our export earnings. Why? Because we've diversified, and that's how you will get money in the pockets of so many people if you diversify and also mitigate risk. That no single item in Uganda can be hit and the economy comes to a standstill, like it is done in some other places, which I don't want to mention. So, to answer you, in order for us to get money to the pockets of people is to ensure that we diversify the opportunities for them, not to rely on only coffee and gold and cows, and you know, we need to get in a new economy. That's why innovations are important. Younger people will never do certain things again. Certain younger people, they don't want to get dirty or milking cows, even if their grandparents and parents are typical livestock farmers. Actually, some of you get headache. These children of mine, they don't understand that this is what has made us. Coffee and livestock, dairy farming. Yes, Daddy, but now, for them, they want to milk computers. They want to milk certain, you know, AI. They are working with the AI to set up certain businesses, and we need to support them. And that's why we are investing in that space as well, so that we can have digital transformation, have others in manufacturing, have others in sport. Some parents get headache when they see their children, instead of calculating math, they are playing guitars. But who's richer than some of those guitar players you see on TV? So we need to support creatives, support, and that's why you see in this strategy, we are trying to be as broad as possible, giving opportunity to everybody. On the political affiliation and PDM and so on, you know, some of these will always be there, some of these challenges. Our society is still transforming. Some of our leaders will try to politicize certain things. Some of our people will. But what is the LCM, the lowest common multiple in this program, is that it is transforming lives of Ugandans. And we need to, for me, I always hang on where I have a chance of success, pragmatism. Where is the chance of success likely to be? It is likely to be in where you can get as many Ugandans as possible, access finance, but also business development services, access the market. It is from those small interventions that eventually you get a community to work. I believe in two opportunity equalizers: education and financial inclusion. No human being has ever failed to transform when he's having access to those two: education, financial inclusion. So we shall continue to ensure that those ones are leveraged. The geopolitics, ma'am, and all of these new challenges we are getting, how do we navigate them? By watching them. We are watching them. We have 5 key risks that we are watching, and one of them is that geopolitical environment which is emerging globally. Forget about Mr. Trump. There are others. At least Trump is honest. For him, he has done it openly. Others do it in a subtle way. We are watching, but bottom line is, it is our responsibility to look after ourselves. We shouldn't think that somebody in America should pay tax and they treat us. No. Ugandans will stay alive. This one I want to assure you, because as government, we have repurposed our resources that we have to attend to the critical needs of Uganda. And the critical needs are the ATMs and the enablers. Among the enablers, number 1 is human capital development. And in human capital development, health is number 1. And that's why you see the budget of health has been strengthened. Of course, we are not yet there at the optimal number, but gradually we are going to get there. The good thing, these challenges are coming at a time when we have also built certain capabilities. Because now most of the essential medicines, we have started to produce them. We are not importing ARVs, so it becomes easier for government. Just imagine if Uganda did not have ARVs. What would have happened to our people who are having HIV/AIDS? At a time when somebody is saying, I can even think about it, 3 months, let us stop and see whether that person dies or not. You know, they gave us 3 months to first see on whether this money should be spent here or not. Number 2, also, you need to be careful with these numbers also they throw around. I love President Trump that he has exposed a lot of things. I've been around and asking, how much money are we getting off budget? Nobody was telling us. Nobody knew, perhaps, because they were giving us numbers, but not money. Now we discovered that some of these numbers were exaggerated. They were not actually what was being spent in the country. Somebody tells you, we have signed with you an agreement, we are going to spend $1 billion in the next 3 years. But now when we checked, by the way, we need to audit these things. When we checked, this money maybe it came and bounced back, or it never came. It's not as much as we thought it would be. All of those we need to know them, but bottom line, we are going to keep Ugandans alive. This one I want to assure you.
Thank you, PSST. A round of applause for him. We are not going to let him go as of now, but we have not been roasting maize here because the people with the maize, I'm told, remained among you. So I want to invite some 4 people here to bring the maize, and then we can, maybe you want to stay? You want to be there? There's no problem, sir. These lights are too much. But I like the handling. We've been working with the Apex platform to craft these things into the enablers and what exactly draws the growth, what is the enabler for the growth. I want to invite Gary Kizito, the Assistant Commissioner Compliance, representing the Commissioner DT. You'll tell people what DT means. There are many acronyms out there. I don't want to make mistakes. Welcome, sir. Patronella, you were here before, so this is familiar space for you to come and join us. Mr. Alan Senyondwa, we need you here to come and tell us what is happening on the manufacturer's side. And yes, Michael Seguaya, ABSA needs to be up here. PSST, there is one team that will also come to have a conversation with you. They are from they are not rivals with ABSA. This is BRAC. They drive the graduation model in terms of what lessons we can pick from there with regard to identification of those in the PDM. So BRAC will be seeking audience with you at some point. I have now, I hope one of you has brought maize, because that is this a season for maize? But maize is always here in Uganda and we don't have to worry about it. Let me begin with the person who has promised us that he will carry the check for this, just in case you have changed your mind. We are not going to allow you to do that. They have been, and PSST and the government has been kind enough to step up the arrears budget. I know I've been reading bank surveys, and one of the things creating for you non-performing assets and threatening your existence because you have to write down, not ABSA, but the others, has been the arrears of government. They have been stepped up to 1.4 trillion, which is really a good signal, jumping from 200 to that. What does that speak to the banking sector and also in terms of easing the space? Are there still threats? What have been the threats? Why do I have to instruct an ED what to say? He knows best what to do, especially when the ED is the CFO as well.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Mhunza. I think the first point is really around the credit. There was a comment around whether banks actually providing credit. The beauty is that when I saw the private sector growth is about 6.4%, which is really in line with the GDP growth. So what are we saying? That as people grow their businesses, as this economy grows, there's access to credit. And the beauty about us as ABSA is that our credit has grown double digit. So we are clearly doing more to ensure that the economy grows. I think specifically to this question, thank you very much, PSST and the team. We are moving from 200 billion to 1.4 trillion, just to try and take care of the areas. That is a good gesture, but I think looking at the balance sheet, I think we should be doing more from the years to come, to try and ensure that we support the business community, because it even eases the cost of doing business. For a person to come and do business with government and they are planning 1 year of payment, they need to factor in the cost of doing that business and when they are cashing in. So that ultimately also helps government. But I think we can do more, but that's a step in the right direction. Thank you.
Alan, possibly some of these are in your docket. The PSST and government is really leveraging, letter M is on manufacturing and industrialization, so to speak. You already sit in that space. What lessons do you have for us going forward that these we already have, and this is how you should address them and maybe more?
Thank you very much, and I would like to congratulate the PSST and the entire government for the budget that seems to be on everyone's lips, and we hear the money is here. That is a very good headline for today's newspapers. From our side as manufacturers, one thing that has been eluding us a lot is the 54 1.5% capacity utilization vis-a-vis the financing of production. And so to hear that there is a 1.4 trillion coming through, for those of you who may not be aware, most manufacturers actually do their own refinancing. Why? Because the cost of financing is high, number one, and number two, it is too short term. So most of the manufacturers really do their own refinancing. So this is a very huge welcome to the manufacturers. Why are we saying that? Because in the manufacturing world, as Mr. PSST already indicated, the leading issue that we have is financing. And yes, you have touched the reasons as to why we don't have the money. It's a small economy, we don't have it, and we're keeping on bringing the money. But the biggest challenge we have actually is financing. That is the latest survey. The second biggest challenge that we have, and we are saying these are supposed to be the lessons going out there, is the effective demand. Because the 54.5% capacity utilization intimates two things. A, you don't have enough money to keep the production going. B, there is not enough demand for the goods you are producing. So we are watching very clearly what the PDM is doing. Someone is going to ask me, why PDM? Because unless the Ugandans have money in their pockets, they won't buy the goods that we produce. That's the number one. Number two is what the PSST alluded to. We are, by the way, very involved with government. We work a lot with government, especially at the regional level. And so when the PSST is quoting these figures from the DRC Congo, we hear you, sir. When you're quoting figures from South Sudan, we hear you, because that then extends our market. And for those of you who may not know, that's why this year we are congratulating the government a lot. They have listened, really. We're doing a lot of market commercial diplomacy. For those of you who may not be aware, a week ago the president flagged the first milk consignment to Algeria, and we were saying, wow, finally we are not going to be imposed upon that in March, when the rain is coming, don't bring milk to Kenya. Now we can say, no, we don't have enough milk. Can you wait? When we have enough milk, we will bring you the milk. So we are very happy with that. And we are thinking that the Maghreb region is going to open up even more products. So why are we congratulating more than having gaps? The other issue is, this year again, electricity tariffs have fallen to 5.5 for the extra large. So we are seeing a movement, and we are congratulating more. We know there are gaps, and we are seeing gaps all over the place. But what we are saying is, I think government is listening more, and we are moving in the right direction. I'll end by this. The PSST has alluded sometimes to the politicization of the smartness and beautiful minds in government. We have these beautiful programs. But what we realize is sometimes they are bastardized by some issues that come along the way. I'll touch this thing called ATMs. Our manufacturers are having a huge problem. Issues towards manufacturing are split and spread all over the place that a manufacturer doesn't know where to go. It is called agro-industrialization. So, should we have farmers doing the industrialization? Or should we leave the industrialization part under the responsible entity? So we end up having challenges. Number two, this thing called private sector development. Can we, if there are roads for manufacturing, can we have them under that docket so that we know these are roads to support manufacturing. This is marketing for manufacturing. This is something of the sort. Otherwise, it becomes very difficult for you to walk all over government trying to find out what to do for your sector. So those are the few gaps that we are seeing in and that we think have to be touched. Number one, financing. Manufacturing cannot survive on commercial banking. We can never. It is, if you have return on investment of 10 to 15% and you're going to borrow between 15 and 20%, you cannot survive. That is why the extra large companies shift to international banking structures. But number two also is where to sell. So those are the things that we're trying to say, that we need to be deliberate. If we are going to grow and we are going to use the ATMs, let us have more focus. But as we speak right now, the budget is saying manufacturing is only 0.4% of the whole entire budget. So what are we talking about?
Maybe because the budget went to UEDCL to make sure why the tariffs go down, you also have the power. And needs to go there as well. But one of the people looking at you, because you are one of his major sources of revenue, PSST has told us you must have some money. Mr. Kizito, out there, you need to find for us some 37 trillion. Really the question is, what challenges may threaten the targets and how do you intend to address them? Being commissioner in the Commission of Compliance, I know compliance is an issue, but what are the other things, including compliance itself, that may threaten us realizing that target?
Thank you very much, Dr. Mhumuza. My name is Gary Kizito, the Assistant Commissioner for Compliance Management in Domestic Taxes Department, PSST, and our hosts, NTV, ABSA, and Deloitte. We thank you for organizing this session. So this year's budget is one of the best budgets as far as enabling businesses is concerned, as today's theme states. And we are amidst the challenges that we have as the Uganda Revenue Authority to be able to meet the 37.2 trillion target for this financial year. And this is an increase by about 5 trillion from last financial year. Our last financial budget was about 32 trillion. Our performance to date is just short of we're about 98 point something percent so far, and our plan is by close of this year. I know Minister of Finance has projected that we may end at around 98 point something, but our plan is, in the last few weeks of this financial year, is to close this gap and recover the entire 32 trillion or even above. So among the challenges that we have this financial year, which have always been, of course, our challenges, is really taxpayer compliance. But within that has been a lot of difficulties for taxpayers as well to comply. And this year's budget has deliberately targeted a number of interventions to help taxpayers improve their compliance. And among these, we've talked about things like formalization. So businesses find it difficult to grow if they are not formal. And a number of interventions have been made from a policy perspective to address the issue of informality. So for example, the income tax exemption that has been introduced starting from July 2025. For startups, we are aware that Uganda is one of the most highly entrepreneurial countries in the world, but majority of whose businesses never see their first birthday, right? And partially because of the level of informality, opening up businesses are not able to manage them and grow them. So our citizens of Uganda, come 1st July, open up a business with an investment capital that does not exceed 500 million. You will be entitled to an income tax exemption for 3 years. So if you are fearing to start a business because you are worried of paying tax immediately, and now you've been given 3 years of reinvesting those profits, formalizing your business, to be able to reach a point when your business can start paying tax after 3 years. So this is a very good incentive for businesses to formalize and start taking advantage of these benefits. Of course, as URA also, it gives us an opportunity because we also don't want to milk cows that we do not feed, right? So through a policy perspective, this helps also to build businesses for us. Then also, the other policy reform is the exemption of capital gains tax from the transfer of assets from an individual to a company. We have a number of individuals who have properties and would like to formalize by transferring these properties into companies and estates of that nature. Because we know that properties that are in your individual names, once you leave this world, they are likely to demise as well. So by formalizing and transferring them into forms of entities like companies, this has been attracting taxes, huge taxes, capital gains taxes, and perhaps has been one of the reasons why many were not doing it. But now with this reform, you are able to transfer these assets into your company forms without payment of capital gains tax. Of course, the colleague from UMA talked about the reduction in the tariffs of power. Government has also gone ahead to grant an exemption to Bujagali Energy Company, which also means that this also continue limiting the increase in tariffs for electricity. The removal of stamp duty from mortgages and agreements. You are aware this has been a hindrance to access to credit, like it has been mentioned here. Because every time you got a loan through a mortgage, 0.5% of the value of that mortgage was stamp duty. Any form of agreements, any form of contracts you entered into, there's a stamp duty that was paid on each copy of that agreement. All this has been removed. And again, government is trying to promote businesses, allow them to have access to credit, and lower the cost of doing business in Uganda. Then, of course, the famous IFRIS. We've heard about IFRIS, the electronic fiscal receipting and invoicing system that we implemented about 3 years ago. Last year, we had a pushback from the industry and the traders because of the multitude of penalties that were being imposed around this. And this was the major factor pushing back the implementation, because we would impose a penalty of 6 million per receipt we find that you have not fiscalized through the IFRIS system. And this was kind of huge. I think it's now akin to the EPS system as well. So again, the government has reviewed the structure of these penalties. So now the penalty will simply be twice the tax on the invoice or on the receipt that you have not issued. So it means that if at last time you would sell an item of 1 million with a tax about 180,000 on it, and you have to suffer 6 million against the tax of 180,000, this time around it's much lower. It will just be twice. So we will be expecting to come through again and do more sensitizations for our taxpayers, because this is one of the tools that we use as Uganda Revenue Authority to improve compliance and have visibility into enhancing our revenues. Then I also talk about the waiver of penalties and interest. This has been a great extension over the couple of years. Government has extended this tax amnesty or this tax waiver, and again, to help businesses recover from the after effects of COVID. So to this effect, if you have any taxes that you've not paid in the prior years leading up to 30th June 2024, and those taxes have since accumulated interest, have since accumulated penalties, those penalties will be waived, that interest will be waived, provided you pay that principal tax by the 30th of June 2026. To give you context, just last year, when this waiver was in place, we managed to recover close to 625 billion shillings out of this amnesty, and close to about 8,000 taxpayers benefited from this amnesty. We were able to waive off close to 182 billion in interest and penalties, right? So this is also important, because as our businesses struggle to keep afloat with the cash flows, to invest in business. Tax interests and the liabilities arising out of penalties become a big challenge for them. So again, this also comes in as a way to improve and help our taxpayers leverage business growth. Thank you very much, Mr. Dr. Musa.
Thank you very much. Hope you've heard liquidity is really key. So anything that allows businesses to have some liquidity is central to one of the priorities the president said, which is going to be an dilemma for you, but I can see you already in the space. Tax without killing the businesses. We always say some businesses really, a waiver like the 3 years is good enough for them to grow. You don't want to tax, and then by the time you come back, the business is dead. Then you have nothing to tax. Petronella was already here speaking to us, and she made some things. Somebody may have a question for her. Is there anything that you took note of among the things that Petronella spoke? Before I give her my own question, you may have a question for her from the audience, or maybe you have some questions for any of the panelists here. Please, the opportunity is now. I want to see some 2-3 hands. I can see one hand there. You're going to be brief. Another hand there. Those are 2. I'm looking on this side. Maybe I need a drone to check in there. Any other? Just 1 minute each one of us, and then we'll get back to my panel.
Thank you, Doctor. And thank you, ABSA. Thank you, NTV. I'm by name Krima Henry Edgar, an economist and an intending researcher. So mine goes to Alan, Uganda Manufacturers Association. I think we have a very big issue with awareness of your manufacturers regarding these government initiatives. Because lately there is a purely an academic survey that we've been doing all over the country. But one challenge we've realized that some of these manufacturers are really not aware of the UTB and UDC funds. So I think you as an umbrella organization, you're really challenged to really go forth and create awareness among your own members. Secondly is, I think there is need, you as the umbrella organization, to amplify the manufacturer's contribution towards policy through research and things like that. Because mostly when we visit some of these people and you find that we are doing pure academic things, some of your members are not willing to participate in some of these things. Yet these are the things that are really feeding policy, and it's through these things that we really come up with some of this policy. So I think there is a lot to be done on amplifying their contribution. Thank you.
Thank you. Just somebody on the same table. I'm trying to see if there are other hands that need to come in at this point, or they can come in later.
Thank you.
Table is dominating the space. Is it,
Mr. Moderator, my name is Andrew Bakorao. I'm here on behalf of East Africa Budget Network. Mine is about inclusive growth. We know very well that we are growing, but how do we ensure we grow together, all of us? Some time back, someone was talking of surpluses, that we have surpluses. And I also wrote that how do you talk of surpluses, especially food and basic food, when we have more than 30% of our children are malnourished? Secondly, I've also written about something to do with exporting scarce basic commodities. When in our communities where we live, there is a dilemma. Some of the basic foods are no longer manageable. Our people cannot manage, like beans. Beans are so expensive. But someone is boasting of exporting some of these commodities. So isn't there risk, some of our policymakers, please, shouldn't we start looking at stopping exporting some of these commodities? Because look at school fees. Schools, these are some of the foods schools depend on, and when they're expensive, you hear people also cry. So please, policymakers, thank you very much.
Thank you. I think Alan, just one more.
Thank you so much, Doctor, and the rest of the panelists. My name is Geoffrey Epila. I work for UN Women Uganda country office, and I am representing the country representative, Dr. Paulina, who is unable to make it here due to other equally important engagement that were scheduled earlier on. My question goes to the Commissioner Domestic Tax Department. You have highlighted the numbers of key reforms that have been highlighted within the budget concerning how best the tax base could be widened. And I think one of them that you missed to mention is the impartiality that would be deployed during the process of auditing and assessing some of these large tax payers companies. We have seen scenarios where some of the assessments were done without factoring into consideration the component of fairness and impartiality. So when I saw that within the budget, I think it's one of the most critical things that will contribute a lot towards revenue collection. My actual question now is, when I scan through the budget, I have seen a number of allocations that have been made to the Microfinance Support Center, with around 33 billion being given to the small and medium enterprises, where majority of women-led enterprises fall, with a 10% billion being allocated to the special interest group as well. My concern is, when these people access this money, are there some other reforms or that you intend to put in place to give special consideration in regards to paying taxes to women-led enterprises? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Alan, you had a question there. And I think then we'll go to Mr. Kizito.
Thank you very much.
And then Patronella.
Thank you very much for the questions. And these questions are very pertinent, because I had also the illusion in the third question, also in that direction. Number one is about awareness of programs at UDC and UDB. Just to inform us that indeed there is awareness, but the amounts of money at UDB and UDC are not enough. If you look at the amounts which we have, if even 10% of the manufacturers went to UDB, they would have wiped out. 2% of the manufacturers would have wiped out that whole entire funding. So the funding, what we have been advocating for is that the amount of money in these institutions is still low. And we need to add more funding in there so that manufacturers can go in there. That is why you see there is a mismatch between the awareness and the actual need to go into these institutions. Number two was about the participation of manufacturers in some of your research and other government programs. Indeed, actually, the participation is very high. When it comes to research, however, and allow me to tie this to the last issue of fairness in payment, there is an illusion in this country that we have so many manufacturers and therefore they should pay so much more. Allow me to give you the facts. There are only about 9,000 industries in this country. And of those 9,000, about 4,000 are really small industries of 2 to 5 people to 10 people. So really what you have about 5,000 industries in this country, and our colleagues from URA are seated here, they can justify that, paying about 30% of the revenue we collect. Now just imagine, about 5,000 industries paying 30% of the revenue we collect. There is 72% of our population in agriculture, and they only collect 1 to 2% taxes from that sector. So when you then approach these manufacturers for evidence, the idea is why you're collecting evidence for them to be taxed even more. So why should they give you information for you to tax them even more? So that illusion, we, as the PSST has said, we must change our minds. This tokenism of handing over things should stop. We as Ugandans must begin to produce goods. We must try and do everything for the muntu wa bulijjo to begin producing goods. Otherwise, we'll be stuck in this issue of poverty. I will say this one thing though. Yesterday we discussed with my senior Mokunda, and the issue is the money is available. For example, under PDM, are we prepared for the money? The PSST has even alluded to it. Are we prepared enough to get the money? Because the money may come, the money may be there. But how prepared, or how have we prepared our people to receive the money? Otherwise, we'll keep on lamenting all the time. I'll end with this. For our people on the ground, and our plea to government is this: agricultural economics is a little bit different from industrial and commercial economics. And with this one must sink really deep into the minds of our planners. We cannot tell a P2, P5, senior one dropout who has chosen to be a farmer to do the following. Number one, look for the best seeds. Go downtown to, what's it called? Container Village, and look for the best seeds. Number two, as you're doing that, please aim for the best rainy season. Don't forget, the rainy season is coming, so you watch out for the rain. Number three, please weed and look for the best acaricides you can look for. Number four, please harvest on time. Do the post-harvest handling. And then, when you're done with all of that, look for the market. It is disaster. I know we enjoy chastising and telling everyone that the colonialists left us nothing. But the colonialists left us one thing. They left us cooperatives. And when we liberalized, we didn't open the door. We simply threw the door away. Now we are telling a farmer to do all these things and sell. This is what is on the ground. The season of maize, doctor, is next month. Okay? Right now, a kilo of maize is 1,540. Watch the gap. In 1 month, that same maize is going to cost 500 or 600 shillings. Ask a question. How do we incentivize this farmer? Who knows that right now the price is 1,500 and he's going to sell his maize at 500 next year? The answer to that is aggregation. Get the farmers together, to aggregate together, to market together, to do things together, so that money goes into the pockets of the farmers. Otherwise, we will keep lamenting until the cows come home. Thank you.
I think that also speaks to access to food, especially basic foods. We've been doing studies to say many of us here don't have gardens. Our best way to accessing food is the money we make from other things. So there is a food security connected to the businesses that people do. If you find most of the people, their salary is 150,000, They have to pay rent from that. They have to also eat from that. That already is a cause of food insecurity. And that will explain the malnutrition. I mean, this is what we may think is plenty, because also there is food and there is nutrition in the food. One time I was working with a medical doctor, and me, I was seeing donuts, I was seeing all sorts of foods, and for him, he was seeing the nutrition. He said, hey, you guys, you have only served us starch and proteins. So sometimes we just eat, but we are not eating nutrition, and that's nutritionally, and that's where the challenge comes from. So I think there is an issue there that needs to be addressed about food security, and I think the study that came out of the census indicated we are actually food insecure country, and some of the imports coming in are food stuff from Tanzania. Do we ban export of food? I mean, these are policy issues, and rightly you've placed them in the right places. There are policy discussions that need to go on. Even as we say agro-industrialization. Are we going to process all the food and have nothing to eat? We're also seeing dynamics. People have grown coffee. We don't eat coffee, we grow coffee for export. But if everybody is going commercially into coffee for commercial reasons, then they may end up without food. And then they spend all the money they earn from coffee buying food from Tanzania. So ultimately, who is benefiting from Uganda's coffee? The Tanzanian farmer. We need to be watching those dynamics. Those are good policy discussions. Petronella, before I get to the taxman. You made a good presentation here, and you know these audit firms sit in between the taxes, the businesses, they also audit businesses, so they know the inside and the capacity and strength of these businesses. So really when the president says tax without killing them, I think Petronella may have some hints on us on how that presidential guidance and directive can be realized. Do you want to say something towards that?
Thank you, Doctor. Well, so in terms of what everyone is talking about, we have the same concerns as a business. So we are not just advisors or people who sit in between. We are a business operating in this country with the same challenges. And to your point about, growing coffee and probably forgetting food, I think Japan is having a crisis with respect to rice.
The whole minister resigned because he said, me, I don't buy rice, my voters bring it. That was an inappropriate statement. And in Japan, of course, you owe up. Other countries don't do that. But that's the emphasis I think Petronella is bringing to us.
Yes. Now, on the issue of taxes, and we do have to acknowledge, it's a universally accepted principle that government needs taxes to be able to fund programs. That happens everywhere. From a Uganda perspective, I think the issue is not so much that most people want to comply. They want to pay taxes, they want to butt out fair taxes. They don't want to pay tax today, tomorrow, and be the only source of collection. So, the Assistant Commissioner has talked about the efforts being made by government and URA with respect to taxpayer education, widening the tax base. But I think some of the things that also need to be looked at, and the PSST mentioned partnership, which Alan, when he was talking about some of the gains that have been achieved between the collaboration between government and the manufacturers, as an example, from a regional perspective, that's what taxpayers want to see. First, they need to understand the rules of engagement when it comes to tax collection. I think there's been quite a bit of ambiguity or what looks like shifting of goalposts. So as a business and a person who's paying taxes, most people are not sure from one day or the other what the parameters are going to be, the rules of the game are going to be. So I think that's the first thing. The other is in regard to refunds. Very big sticking issue for a lot of businesses, definitely for the manufacturers, but for a lot of businesses. And I think if money is due to business, if it can be given back at the same speed that it's collected when the taxpayer owes, or at least in relatively, a reasonable time period. And again, Alan talked about the financing needs. Businesses need financing, but even if what is owed to them in terms of refunds or money that they ideally should be able to plan on is not coming as quickly, that means they need to find alternative funding. So that's an area that, again, needs to be looked into so that it's not tax collection as it is not harming businesses. Then the last one I will mention is, so we often say that certain taxes are sin taxes, and excise duty, is a tool that's used quite often. So while there have not been too many changes in terms of, the other taxes, I think excise duty usually sees changes come through. Now, going back again to something Alan mentioned in terms of effective demand, where you are in a space where demand is not where it needs to be, so people are not spending as much. When you load an excise duty, which ideally should be passed on to the consumer, if as a business the consumer cannot afford to buy the product because it now has something else loaded, it means you need to factor that in as an additional cost to you. So it's not being passed on to the end consumer, it's something then that you absorb. So I think when we say harming business, that's all well and good. It's just looking at the current maybe gaps or challenges and thinking of the relationship between a taxpayer and the tax authority as a partnership. One gives, one takes, but there can be collaboration. So URA does have the unenviable task of collecting. Someone has to do it. But can it be done in such a way that there is dialogue between the parties? Because everyone is trying to achieve the same thing. If a business or a taxpayer owes money that is due, fairly due, then for most people in this room and out there that are listening, there's no problem with paying that or agreeing how the payment can be made if cash is a constraint. But when you do not know whether today, the tax authority will come, or tomorrow, or the next day, and it feels like part of your core business, instead of producing or providing services, part of that has become managing audits or queries, then that in itself does become a challenge. I'll close there.
Thank you very much. Taxman, Mr. Kizito, you had some questions put to you.
Yes.
And I think you want to give assurances and guidance. We want to grow Uganda together. So what does that mean to you and him and us?
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Mumuza. Thank you, participants, for the questions and comments. I'll start with one for Patronella. I think sounded very, very touching. So she introduced a couple of issues here, some of the things that have been troubling most of our taxpayers, especially things like audits, right? The fact that we stress businesses a lot through audits. Now, of course, tax compliance is a challenge for us, and we do this through risk management, right? So there are some taxpayers who literally rank almost high on our radar of risk management, and they eventually get visited by the taxman, which causes, of course, fatigue, which we are aware of, and we've received feedback as URA. So what management is doing about this is we've agreed to conduct what we call joint audits. So we'll do joint risk management. Previously, we've been doing this more of separate departments, domestic taxes differently, and then customs differently, and then tax investigations. But what we've agreed going forward is we'll do joint risk management and doing joint audits, so that if we are to visit you as a revenue authority, we visit you all at once, rather than after 1 month you have another one visiting you. So this has actually been a big challenge for our taxpayers, and this has been observed. Shifting of parameters, what to expect today and tomorrow. This, of course, has also been occasioned by a number of manual interactions of our officers with the taxpayers, some of whom, of course, require more and more training. So we are leveraging technology and automation to our greatest extent possible. That's why you've seen where we've done our attempts to automate taxpayer balances and accounts and given them to the taxpayers to view them. You have access to your tax account, you have access to your tax ledger, and you can always reconcile it at all times and have visibility into it. That limits the calls, disturbing calls from URA. This one tells you this one that tells you the other. Your account summarizes for all your transactions, returns, assessments, payments, refunds. You have clear visibility. And we've introduced this about 2 years ago. Prior to this, it was worse indeed, but we've made steps to improve, and you continuously improve and innovate around these areas. So, again, on the issue of refunds, again, it's risk management. You know, some taxpayers, when they hear that URA gives refunds, which it does, they always put in a request for refund, and in many cases, they are not very clean themselves in the attempt to seek these refunds. And just as being custodians of government revenue, when you seek a refund, we must establish whether indeed government owes you. And through our audits and verifications, we established that a couple of them actually are not really owed as indeed. And this is a process of verifications. And some of these refund claims will date back a couple of years and requires a bit of time. However, we have given special focus to manufacturers, and we have actually cut down the SLAs for refunds for manufacturers to 30 days maximum. However, there's a part that the manufacturer also needs to play. Most of the time in verifying refunds is because of document verification, right? So what we request to you is make use of the digital tools available with URA. IFRIS, let your transactions be fiscalized, because then that gives us quick verification procedures in determining your refund, right? Be responsive if they ask you to bring documentations that justify your refund, okay? So here we have to work together, because sometimes it's our taxpayers who make delays in providing those justifications and explanations and documentations, and the time is stretched. But here we can work together, and for us as URA, this is an area we have given focus to make sure we reduce. We have actually introduced what we call a fast-track refund mechanism. And this again also will be based on risk management. If we have reviewed your risk and we believe you are a taxpayer who's less risky, we have benefits where we can refund the taxpayer and then verify later. Those are what we call fast-track refunds, because we have established a relationship with the taxpayer, we've audited them, we've seen they have controls in place. We're also introducing what we call cooperative compliance model. And Patronella also talked about collaborations with the taxpayers. In this model, we want to partner with taxpayers who have invested in building internal controls within their systems to minimize tax risk, okay? And if we believe you're doing that deliberate, then we should cooperate with you, give you exemptions for taxes, give you automatic tax clearance certificates, automatic, without even a need to do this verification. Things like clearance of goods and importation, or authorized economic operator benefits are available. So these are things that we want our taxpayers to partner with us, right? So that we give you a first-class service, a prime service, provided you have invested in limiting risk, tax risk, in your processes and in your operations as a business. So this is available to us, and this is one of the strategies. We intend to facilitate businesses that deliberately work towards compliance. Then, of course, on excise duty also, you talked about excise duty, Petronella. We haven't had any regime change in taxation of excise this financial year. Instead, a benefit, actually, because the law has introduced a benefit for remission of excise duty on wastage and expired goods. You know, this has not been the case. Manufacturers have been facing a challenge of not being able to recover the tax excise paid on expired goods, damaged goods. This has also come within this financial as another benefit for manufacturers. Then Geoffrey, Peter talked about the issue of any special tax incentives for special interest groups like women and the others. So generally speaking, if you access this finance, you talked about the 33 billion that has been set aside through microfinance support. As you access this finance, you'll be signing up things like loans, loan agreements, okay? And the removal of duties from this is the first benefit for you. But even when you invest this money, taxation policy does not target investment. Our taxation policy targets consumption, right? So at the point you get this money and invest it into your small businesses, cottages, all this, when you enter this money into SACCOs and invest it as SACCOs, exemptions on return on investment on SACCOs. When you put money through SACCOs and invest it through SACCOs and have a return on investment, the tax is exempt on your return on your profitability as a SACCO. Even when it is distributed to the members, again, there is no tax on this. So all this generally helps you as small businesses to come up through this. Thank you very much, Doctor.
Thank you very much. We want to be getting close to the end, but Michael, we want to grow Uganda together. And I really have asked Michael to speak to something that's a sentiment out there as well, in addition to what else he wants to talk about. PSST has said we are a country that is deficient of capital, and one of the partnerships we are building is with those guys out there. Now, there are certain sentiments Ugandans have about what they call foreign banks, external banks. We don't have that in the Ugandan kind of legal system. Every bank you see in Uganda is a local bank. It may have some foreign ownership, but it is a local Ugandan bank. And I'm glad to see ABSA. These are fellows we speak local languages with. So what else do you need from them? But the good thing, they have brought us the money. And although you say by the time somebody takes out 50 billion in profit, look at the 4 trillion they brought to invest here and what that has done. Growing Uganda together. We are picking from you and want to have it here as well. Michael, what is it that helps the other things?
And thank you very much for that question. You know, growing Uganda together. We did a study around PAYE and NSSF and realized that the working community, actually on average, people are earning about 250,000 shillings. And I want to tell you we are not surviving on 250,000 shillings. Clearly, what shows that we are doing certain things out there. And if you looked at the budget today, it's trying to formalize those things, to try and ensure that you attract credit. And when you also look at the compliance, the growth in the tax expectation, I think URA is expected to grow by about 14% in tax revenue collection. Our GDP is growing at 6%. So clearly compliance is going to be key. And for us as banks, if you are formalized, you're getting that income, revenues coming through, there are opportunities for credit. And as ABSA, that is why we do these programs, such that we're able to sensitize the masses. We grow together to understand what's happening in the tax space, what can we do, what can we tweak in the way we run our lives to ensure that we plug into this economy. I should say Uganda, we benefit. We need to benefit from the water we have, the weather we have, and the fact that we are importing a lot from Tanzania is food for thought. But I think from an interest rate perspective, there are opportunities because we have seen interest rates generally drop. And I think if you look at the budget speech, there was also reference to that. And for me, as long as we are organizing ourselves, there is room to get credit. You're having discussions with the bankers above and beyond the government initiatives to try and ensure that, the PDMs of this world, the SCFs of this world to grow agriculture are available, especially through the banks. So let's have those discussions and ensure that we can support you on the credit side. The other bit is, as ABSA, we have a relationship. Our mother parent coming from South Africa, and the fact that they are good in agriculture is something we are partnering to try and ensure that we grow business in that space. Can we get expertise from these relationships to try and ensure that we boost ourselves? I think for me, that's the benefit of these forums. How do we grow together in the environment and use these opportunities to try and network and grow together? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Patronella, do you have any 30-second mention to the public as we bring this to a close?
Okay. So mine is to say, as Michael has said, these forums create an opportunity to provide information. Now you know what's in the budget, you know what possible opportunities are there. Mr. Chizito has talked about from a tax perspective, what incentives or what things URA is doing to try to help you as a taxpayer not to feel that burden. Use the information wisely. That will be it.
And as you use that information, you also give us information. And I've received a lot of information that's going to continuously feed into these processes. Mr. Kizito, any 30-second wind-up thing?
Thank you very much. So my advice goes to our taxpayers to take advantage, like she said. Many of our taxpayers we are not aware of a couple of benefits and incentives. URA exists to support taxpayers. Come for advisories. I know from Patronella's perspective, they earn through advisories, right? But URA provides free advisory, right? If you intend to enter into a transaction, into business, and do not understand the tax implications, we are available to provide you this information. Avoid making mistakes that will cost your business because of taxation. Go and update your national IDs and your business registrations, because with the youth been having challenges of individuals using multiple tax identification numbers. You have one for URA, income tax, you have another one for rental tax, another one for VAT. This has been a big challenge for us. And the use of a national ID, of course, gives us an opportunity to aggregate and see you 360 degrees. But also, at the same time, it's an opportunity because it saves the business time and money. Having to register business, URSB, then go to URA, register for tax. They are all procedures which are not necessary. So as government integrates to improve service delivery through sharing data and exchanging information, the use of a national ID will be important in enhancing our service delivery for our taxpayers. Thank you very much.
Okay, some friends of mine received messages from URA. There was a number to call, they called, there was nobody picking. Maybe you need to check some people there to make sure those lines are manned and womaned, because you don't have to come and visit our businesses. Some of our businesses are online, so we want to transact online. So let's check up. Alan, 30 seconds.
Yes, thank you very much. Thank you very much, everyone, and ABSA Bank and NTV for this. I just want to conclude by saying that in this budget cycle, we have seen a lot of benefits for the productive sectors. And yes, there are some other elements such as the import duty, import levy on all goods coming in that we still have to talk about, the 1% levy there, but we shall talk about that. I'll just end by this. On the issue of, you've talked about among other things, the food security. And allow me to tell us that as we discuss more, because for us, the food is an input into the processing of agricultural goods. If, as we speak, we are beginning to import maize from Tanzania. And most of our sunflower and soybean is going out at a low rate. That means that is an opportunity for the agricultural sector to partake. There is money coming in. The question is, are we ready to do that massive commercial agriculture? But the other issue is, how are we going to ensure that through PDM and all these things, we're able to aggregate for purposes of industrialization? We must do that. If that's how we can get money down to the people who make the effective demand for them to purchase the goods, amongst other things. Thank you very much.
Michael, any last word?
Just to thank you for having attended this, and also thank NTV for the partnership. We shall continue doing this for God and my country. Thank you.
Those hand claps are for the panelists. Please, let's resume our seats. Thank you, ABSA, and thank you, NTV. The Makerere University Business School Economics Forum, I bring you greetings. From there, that's my docket. And my Chancellor, Dr. Crispus Kionga, has tasked me to study food security and nutrition. So I'm going to come to ABSA for a partnership. Who knows, your finances, some agricultural people, I heard you talk about those things. And you come to URA to see how would we manage the taxes and people to be nutritious before we export and import. Setumba, where are you? Thank you everybody for persisting with us. We appreciate.
That hand clap is not sufficient for this eminent panel. Thank you very much, gentlemen and ladies. At Nation Media, this is what we do best. Okay, it's about the budget, but we do much more than that. And the theme today was enabling, is the budget a business enabler? I hope you took away something that you can use, and I hope the people you sat near on the same table near you, you could do the networks. This is the essence of this. Yes, we come and talk about that animal called the budget, but we need to take away something. And at Nation Media, and of course with partners ABSA and Deloitte, we facilitate that. We don't just talk, we discuss, and people take away something. Thank you very much. If you take away for me, we got clarifications on tax issues from the tax, from URA. This Tanzanian export issue, you can see it's a budget, but we're talking about Tanzanian exports. So there is opportunity and maybe threat, depending on how you look at it. And then I'm surprised this morning the issue of debt has not appeared. Wherever you went in other forums, they will talk about debt, but what are you going to do about it? People are going to do something about it, but it's a structural issue which is not easy to deal with at a go. So here we're discussing business this morning. And thank you very much for all the contribution and for sharing your time with us so that we can talk and chat. There is a gentleman just give me a note here, but I think the panel has gone down. They wanted the Commissioner of Customs to say something. I think, sir, you need to talk to him before he leaves the room, yeah, on one-on-one. But the Commissioner here, Assistant Commissioner, was representing the Commissioner, Domestic Taxes, the Madam who was not able to be with us. We come to the end of this grand event and looking forward to engaging you next year. Things will change over time, but we promise to be here and call the necessary stakeholders, ABSA, Deloitte, and all of you, so that we can put our heads together on budget issues and so much more. Thank you very much for coming. On behalf of Nation Media, ABSA, our partners, and Deloitte, I want to thank you very much for coming, and we can leave at will. We thank you so much.